Here we are with another Friday Night Live, March 25th, 2022. And another wonderful, beautiful, cool day in the greater Teal. Hope everybody's doing great. Let me just do a sound check. Okay, I think sounds like it's working. If anybody's on, give me a sign you can hear me. Cheers to humanity. Cheers to everyone who has decided to do whatever it takes, no matter what. This is what it's all about. We keep falling, we keep getting up, we keep going. This wonderful life experience that we're here for, it's full of challenges. And if we didn't have challenges, it would be so boring. So we create our own challenges on an ongoing basis. Right? We create our own challenges through our contractual agreement with soul, so we can come here and learn what we need to learn for the growth of the soul. And, Divine's in charge. Some of us like to think we're in charge, but the more we go down the hole, the path of life, we find we know nothing. We know nothing, no thing. So we have some control through our free will, which is a beautiful blessing and makes life interesting for all of us. So who's in for the big squeeze this month? Flying dry. It's what Master Fasting is all about. The glorified dry fast. MFS has put dry fasting on the map like no other. We didn't create dry fasting. MFS didn't create dry fasting. That's for sure. Certain nobody created dry fasting except our Creator itself. The information that put it on the map and made it, popular what it is today. Even though there's a lot of nonsense going around with fasting in general. That's just like everything else. You can find information on all scales of the information you're seeking, good, bad, ugly, in between, neutral. We have to be prudent and be wise, use our sense, common sense and logic to weigh things out, and best gauge to make a decision on things is the laws of the divine and the universe. It's that simple. If they don't reflect with anything to do with that, you have to question. And this is the challenges we have with all man-made things, creations, and so on and so forth from man. GMO foods. If you don't question something like that, I have nothing to say, because it's a total abomination to everything that we understand of the divine and the laws of nature. Right? And some people won't agree with that, and it's okay. we have free will to choose in our belief system as well. Can everybody hear me? Is everybody doing great? Is everybody on their dry squeeze? Has everybody completed their dry squeeze for the month of the season change, the spring up here in the northern hemisphere? Southern hemisphere, you're into just moved into autumn. We call fall, autumn or fall. Last week, I wasn't able to see anybody, and same thing this week. Wondering if it's less people. There was people there, and I couldn't see them. I don't know. Let's see if I can make a comment. Oh, okay. I can see. Hey, Barbara, how you doing? 2 days. 2 days. 2 days of dry. Awesome. SKs, 4 of us are here. We can hear you. Awesome. Very good. Last week, for some reason, I couldn't see anybody and cut it short, and then people wondering where I was. I'm not here just blabber off. I want to have some dialogue with people, sharing their experiences and questions and, inspirations for others. Because I'm sure people are really tired of listening to me for 6 years. Even though we've had beautiful experiences in being able to see so many wonderful regenerations and wonderful, beautiful stories from people. It's always good to hear new ones. It's always good to hear new ones. And, somebody may go along and listen to, 50 people telling them and suggesting, to live a healthier lifestyle and so on and so forth. And they're just deaf. And then one day somebody walks up to them and starts discussing something, and it triggers whatever that person said, or the way they said it, triggers something in this person that has heard 50 other people over many years and didn't do anything. And then all of a sudden they get triggered. And then we've seen this. I've seen it myself, where all of a sudden somebody, they finally get it. They got to take charge, and away they go. And then it's a beautiful thing to watch the transformations when people commit. People don't commit, and we see what happens. They go through an event, they feel amazing, and then they go off their event and they go back to their old ways, and it's they won't be very happy. Like I mentioned in the past, as soon as I picked up Mucusless Diet Healing System book from Ronald Harrod, I couldn't put it down. I went through that thing very quickly, and in a couple of days or something, very quickly. It's not a big book, but and I knew that fasting was going to be part of my life, because it resonated within my heart and within my soul so deeply that how could I let this thing go, this information go as nonsense? I had to make it part of my life and put it through a true test, not just go through an event, because eventing, we know what happens. Eventing is futile. Trying is futile. Making the choice, going for it, no matter what, no matter how long it takes, no matter what happens, we keep going. We got to use prudence always, time when we got to back off, depending on our situation, how obstructed we are. And these things will determine what shows up as we start bringing everything to the surface that's an imbalance in our physical, mental, emotional body. And we're carrying all the lineage of our ancestors from both sides, from both grandparents, great-great-grandparents, and so on. We're carrying all that lineage within our being and our physical, our mental, and emotional being. If we look at our physicality and we look at our grandparents, we will see features in our grandparents that we have, similar to us, right? Why is that? Because we are all part of each other. It's amazing, It's truly amazing to see that, It's, when I was a kid growing up, everybody said I looked like my mother. Growing up, and growing up. And some people do say I look like my mother. And then, as I got, numbers going higher, people started saying, wow, you look exactly like your father. And they never used to say that before. So, we carry the physicality resemblances because we carry the emotions. The emotions, right? The intent and emotion is what creates the physicality. So we carry the emotions of our ancestors. And it builds our physicality to resemble. We can call it our DNA or RNA structure, which is the software that runs the DNA hardware. We can say all that if we look at science from what we know, from the sciences we know, because the sciences of the universe are infinitely superior and righteous and correct and truth. Whereas, man-made theories of science are always changing because for the most part, they're not based on the laws of the universe and nature. And that's why we keep seeing changes in these things. So what do we do? What do we do? How do we make our lives more balanced? Well, we have to decide to move in the direction of balance and continuously play the balancing act, because there's no destination that we get to and say, that's it, I'm done. It doesn't work that way, because we're infinitely energetic beings of plasma love always flowing. Things that have to continue to flow. We can't go stagnant. As soon as we reach stagnation, we're in big trouble, as we see and have seen and are seeing with people who are in severe imbalanced states. Once you get to stagnation place, it's very, very challenging to turn that around unless there's a really strong desire to move out of the stagnation, and then everything's possible, as we've seen over and over and over and over again, which people have, gotten up out of their bedridden state and are now in full working capacities. Amazing. I'm one. I spent the good part of the most part of a 2-year period in bed, for many, many months in bed, and able to get out and move around a little bit, back in. It was not fun. Like literally bedridden for weeks at a time sometimes, and then when I was able to move around a little bit, it wasn't fun. So severe agony and pain. So, we all speak from experiences, from what we personally had, and what we've been able to be so lucky and to and fortunate for people to share their experiences in the MFS realm. So we can all have that um, feeling of that experience from other people. And that's all we do, right? We share experiences and we move on to make it happen with ourselves so we can actually really know what is going on with when other people are talking about their experiences, because talk is cheap. We can listen all we want and try and feel what may be that people are going through, but until we actually go through it ourselves, it's unknown, really, for the most part. And so many of you have shared the same thing. So we got a quiet bunch here tonight. Yeah. The fasting lifestyle is mainly misunderstood because most people do not believe or cannot fathom that fasting is a lifestyle, right? And because of the belief system that gets in the way, that says what? We need this, that, and the other thing. Vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fats, blah, blah, blah. On a daily basis. We got to keep filling our tank. The question asked last week was, where does the body get its energy to digest food? If food is what gives us the energy. Simple question. And we got some wonderful, beautiful answers, because we don't know the answer 100%, but we have a basic idea through our common sense and logic of many experiences of what energy is and where it comes from. The only source of energy is from the divine, which continues to send out plaf and keep that plaf flowing through every living being and non-living being to be able to manifest these things. Everything has a soul and is connected with the divine creator. So, it's a beautiful place to be connected. Let's hear some guys, gals. Let's hear you. What do you got to say? Uh, SK, love learning from you. Funny though, I didn't get the wow factor from Arnold Air. That's what I was saying earlier, right? Perhaps because I learned of him after learning a lot from you and others. This is how it works. You'd never know who is going to trigger that for you, right? It's just so happened that I didn't know anything about veganism, vegetarianism before I got introduced to that book. The people that introduced me to that book became vegetarian, to my shockingly surprise, which I've known for a while, and they became vegetarian. Vegetarian. And then I don't remember how long after I found out that. Then they seen I had a little bit of interest because they started discussing things, and they lent me their Arnold Ehret book. And I said, read it, bang. Where do you get this thing? Back in those days, it was challenging to find these kind of books. So there was a place in BC that used to have a lot of health books through the Live magazine, I think it was. I don't even know if it's still around. And they used to distribute all these rare books, and that's where I bought it from. You mail in your check, and you wait, and they mail you the book. It's not like you go and click, and it's here in 1 or 2 days. In some cases, but that's getting more difficult with each time that passes because they're trying to shut down everything for whatever reason. That's another story. But yeah, it's interesting how things happen. People knew what I was doing for all these years. I used to preach like crazy, and then after a couple of years or something, I said, people aren't interested. And then I would really only start discussing it to people that showed a little bit of interest or asked questions. Then I would get really right into it if they started asking questions. And a lot of people just wouldn't connect. And some of those people, years later, they connected and made some changes at SKR. Also, I still hate the Colonic board. I love my bag though. Yeah, well, we all have our things that we like and dislike, and I don't know how you don't like the Colonic board because it's far superior washing than the enema bag. And you can get much more done in the same time, much more done, because you're using so much more water flowing through the colon. But hey, it is what it is, and, there's a lot of people who hate doing enemas. Anal about enemas, washing their colon. We wash ourselves outside, we shower, we bath, we brush our teeth, wash our hair, but washing the colon seems very strange for many people. And it was strange for me. My mother was the one who gave me my first enema when I don't remember, I think a young teenager, maybe earlier. And what an experience at that time. But that's what their parents used to do, right? When they got sick, they got first thing, bang, they got enemas. They got enemas. Why? That's because it was known that you're plugged up. You need to clean up. Simple. So when I read Arnold Ehret, because I didn't know what the word was in English, I was seeing this enema. I had to look up what this word was. And like I said, in those days, it wasn't a simple task. You got to get a dictionary or whatever. It may not have the word. Anyway, I found out what the meaning was. Oh, that's what my mother gave me. And then I ordered my enema bag. I went to buy my enema bag. Those days, you were able to find them. I can't remember in those days. I think the health food store had them. And the way we went, right? Enema bag was with me for many years. I still have an enema bag. Travel enema bag. Guaranteed I'm going to bring it with me. No ifs, ands, or buts. So then I discovered the Colonic board after going for colonics, after discovering colonics. Colonics I discovered in the year 2000. 2000. I think I learned about it a little bit before, not from a cousin of mine, just a little bit before. And then in 2000 is when I went to do my first colonic closed system, and everything changed after that. And then a few years later, I found about the Kalima board. They've been around for longer than that, much longer. I think since the 70s. And I got my first Kalima board, and away we went. And I've had that board for, it's probably about close to 20 years now. Yeah. So actually, we just sold it because we have a colonic system set up now over here. So colonic closed system is superior than a Kalima or enema, and because it's closed system and you can control the amounts of water that you can build up within the colon. With a Kalima, you can only do it to a certain degree. An enema bag, you can do it to a certain degree, right? The colonic is a closed system is much easier to do that. You can, put 2, 3, 4 liters if you're, much less obstructed before you can release it. You can get a lot of water in there, and it's just exercising the colon, strengthening the colon. That's all it does. The water is, you think about the water as weights for the colon. What do weights do to your muscle? Do they weaken it or do they strengthen it? And only you can answer that. Just, if you can't answer it, you have to go on experience working out with weights to find out if you'll get weaker or stronger. SK's asked, remind me again, what year did your first grape juice fast? What year did you discover on air the enema? It was 1990. I discovered Honored Air, and it wasn't long after reading the book. I don't remember exactly. It wasn't that long after this discovering the book that I did my first 40-day grape juice, Concord grape juice fast, which was only grape juice, nothing else. And it was an amazing experience. But because I was so toxic at 26 years old, living a lifestyle of eating and drinking anything before that, all those years, and the power of the capability of the grape juice that's cooked to strip, which we had no clue in those days, what we know now, and coming off it, not 100% properly, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's how I ended up being bedridden, because what? I burnt out my freaking kidneys. Burnt out my kidneys. I released crap almost from the first couple of days, and I kept releasing every day. Black plaque coming up without any plasma pudding, right? I just was doing the grape juice. That's how powerful of a stripper it is. That's why we have all these tools in place to help absorb all the chemical toxic crap that we put into our bodies purposely and through other means, through exposures that we're maybe not conscious about it and or are conscious about it. What did you break your fast back then? I think it was with prunes, and then some fruit, and then I went on to eating. In those days, we were doing, a lot of veggies, and brown rice was a thing. Putting the brown rice with cayenne pepper to help move it through and absorb. That was a thing back then. But these are not things that you want to be breaking a fast with. And that's why I got myself in trouble, big time. But it was interesting. Like I don't remember exactly the time frame, but after breaking the fast, it was maybe a few months after, where I really got in trouble. Trying to eat a lot of fruit in those days, from Arnold Ehret's book and so on and so forth. But man, oh man, we learned the hard way. We learned the hard way. And that's why we're so adamant about people follow the protocols, follow the breaking the fast as best you possibly can. Put all your heart and soul and sticking to it, because we have the information now through experiences and through many, many people, others' experiences of what's going on during a fast, what's going on when we come out of a fast. We have these understandings now to a certain degree. We don't know everything. By far, we don't know everything. But we have a good understanding that we can avoid all the challenges that I went through in all these years, and I kept going through many different challenges from many other fasts, because I fasted a lot. I fasted pretty much on the get-go after those times. Every season change, from 7 days, sometimes it'd be a little bit less, but usually about 7 days to 2 weeks, every season change. And sometimes I would do long ones, right? Then, several 30 days, 60 days, and then a 90-day prior, many, many, many 7 days to 2 weeks and 3 weeks. On the season changes was, for the most part, my time for fasting. Doesn't Arnold Ehret promote dried fruit fasting? Dried fruit fasting? Not, no such thing as dried fruit fasting. When you're eating, you're not fasting. But he has in his book about eating dried fruits and mixing them with nuts. Like eating raisins with some nuts to be able to digest the nuts better, because he knew the nuts were obstructive, and people ate nuts. So in those days, he thought that mixing them with dried fruit, they would digest better. And they may help the digestion process to a degree, but they're still at a cost of the obstructiveness of those of the fats and the protein of the nuts, right? So, when people say they're fruit fasting, doing a mono fruit fast, it's really not a fast. Like, the only true fast is what? Dry fasting. That's the only really real true state of fast. Anything when we start ingestion is we're trying to mimic a true fast. A water fast, we're trying to mimic a true fast. When we're doing the master fasting with the juice and the herbs and everything, and we're trying to mimic a dry fast. But because of the state of humanity is in today, it was toxic when I started. It was toxic in Arnold Ehret's time in early 1900s. It's toxic when I was doing it, and more toxic. And it's much, much, much more toxic today. Humans in general, we humans in general, are much more toxic in a chemical speaking way. There's chemicals everywhere. So of course we're more toxic. It's in the air, it's in the ground, it's in the water. We can't escape it. It's in the food supply, even grown organically. It's going to have fallout from the sky. It's going to have traces of these chemicals. There's traces of chemicals in the most pristine places on Earth. And that's because of what we've done to the planet and what we continue to do to rape and pillage and bombard this planet, Mother Earth. Mother Earth is doing everything it can, and it's always moving in the direction of balance. But Mother Earth can only do what it can do as long as we keep bombarding. As we say, what's the terminology we use? Hi, Barbara. We say eating and healing do not belong in the same sentence, because if you continue to eat, how's the body going to get itself into a fasting state? I don't see it. You're going to be able to get to a state of less obstructive than when you're eating other things. Of course, absolutely. you're going to move down to the level of obstructiveness of the diet. And, fruit being the least obstructive. Even dried fruit, we got to be careful with dried fruits. When we're not in a good state, the body's not functioning properly, and we're backed up and we're imbalanced. Dried fruit's going to plug people up. Dried fruit does plug people up. People doing these dates and lemon fast, they call them. You get plugged up. You're going to get plugged up. You need to be in a good state for the body to be able to move out dried fruits. Some dates are a little more moist than others, but still, dates are not a moisture fruit, meaning to help move somebody who's blocked up. Soaked prunes, they help people move out. And what are soaked prunes? What are soaked prunes? They're dried out plums, right? And then they soak them. And they have a powerful effect for helping the bowels move. Yeah, so, there's many fruits that help the bowels move better than others. And, soaked plums, prunes, prunes, they don't have a lot of water content because they're dried out, unless you soak them for a long, long time to gain some water. But even if you don't soak them, they're all dried out with very little moisture. They still will help the bowels move because they have the properties to do that. And that is known, right? Prune juice is made from the plums, dehydrated plums, and then of course it's pasteurized, and it brings it to the higher order. So drinking prune juice has even more of an effect than the plums, the dried plums, right? The prunes, because you have more liquid to help wash, and the power of higher order. Like, many people asking to do a prune juice on master fast. Oh boy, man, oh man, you'd be running to the toilet a lot because it's much more powerful. And not for everybody, because I remember one woman saying she could drink a lot of prune juice and it didn't have that strong of effect like her, running to the can all the time. And that could be, some people with the dark cherries, they have that effect, and others don't have that effect. Like myself with a dark cherry, it has some effect like that, more so than the grape, but not as much as it would have on other people. So everything reacts differently in different people. No two people will react the same with anything. No two people on the planet. SKN and negatives from drinking prune juice regularly. Why did you decide to remove it from the protocol? Remove it from the protocol? We've never had it in the protocol. We've had it and suggested as a tool. We've never actually had it, from my memory, as part of the protocol, or did we? I don't even remember now. It's been so while. But yes, if you're having challenges with the bowels moving, first thing I would do is go to prune juice. Early days it was there. Maybe it was, but then we removed it because it's just too powerful. I don't think we had it as just drinking straight prune juice. Mixing it with other juices, you can add it to whatever. Anyway, whatever I had, I don't remember. I don't even know if I have copies of the original things because I've lost so many hard drives. They may be out there somewhere. But yeah, to drink straight prune juice, like I said, there's people who may be able to do that, and it won't have that effect. And because there's some people who have such challenges with moving the bowels. We've met people that would only move their bowels about once a month, and just think about that. eating every day and only moving the bowels once a month. So, it's going to be very challenging for anything to make those bowels move immediately. There needs to be a lot of work of removing obstructions physically, mentally, emotionally to restore and regenerate the function of the bowels. Because pretty much every single one that did 108 days had super bowels. I can think of one that did not, and they had challenges their whole life with constipation, severe challenges, and they were in their 60s when they did 108 days. So there's just a lot more work to do to restore those conditions. And what are super bowels? Well, only master fasters that did the long master fasting will know what super bowels are. That's when your bowels work absolutely beautifully and perfectly, and you don't need any toilet paper or anything to wipe because there's nothing left. Everything works perfectly. You eat and you'll be in the toilet moving your bowels perfectly, very quickly. No straining, nothing. Super bowels. They work very, very efficiently the way they're designed to work. And when you see people on high-fat diets, you will see the complete opposite of that. Ask anybody who's a colon therapist and having dialogues with their clients, their bowels do not work properly. And they don't move properly with the colonic. They cannot fill them properly because the bowels are so constricted and obstructed that they have so many challenges to wash colons of high-fat eaters, or high-protein eaters, Atkins type diets, high-fat keto type diets. So if you're seeing a challenge in the colon is the root causes of all the physicalities, right? The seed causes are the emotions. The whole GI tract, not only just the colon, but the whole GI tract is the root of the physicality challenges. SK, before you recommended enema, it was take prune juice if your bowels aren't moving. Yeah, to help people if they're not moving regularly, but we never said never do enemas. Enema is always part of the protocol from day one. Never ever did we have the enemas. Maybe I'm not understanding you properly, but we always, when people were having challenges in master fast, they say, "Oh, my bowels are not moving on their own. We'll try some prune juice." Because even they were having challenges moving their bowels on the protocol. So we want extra help. Take some prune juice. That's what the prune juice there. It's one of the tools. If it's not in the tools, I'm gonna have to put it back. I'm gonna have to look at that. Yeah, prune juice is part of master fasting. It's not something that I would be drinking every single day as the master fast juice, right? If you want to do a small amount in your juice, in your grape juice, you can do that. Do a small amount. Start with a very small amount, and then or just take a shot. Maybe an ounce or two, and then drink your juice. You can do that. But if you're getting the runs, it's not going to be fun. If you're getting the runs, what do we need to do? We need to wash. We need to wash with more enemas. And when you have the runs, I would definitely be using baking soda to help cool things down, because what starts happening when we have the runs, there's a lot of these acids moving through, and it can burn the rectum area, and it's not comfortable. And then you keep getting the runs and you got to wipe, and it's very painful. We've all been there. So this is why we wash and wash and wash, so we can get those acids out and cool them down with the baking soda, so we can avoid the burn and get it out as quickly as possible. And you may get the runs. This may go on. People have experienced the runs for 2-3 weeks, Is this going to stop? People are saying, well, yeah, keep going. You need a lot of, the body wants to purge as much as it possibly can, as quickly as it can, because you're giving it a chance. Don't stop it. Keep it going. And away we go. So we got to be careful. And, we need to make sure we're drinking enough, washing enough, so the body can stay hydrated through the purging. The drinking is not what's giving you the hydration. It's the purging of the obstructions. So yeah, prune juice is wonderful. Tastes nice. Some people don't like it. Some people don't like grape juice. I don't know how. Grape juice. I've never met children that don't like grape juice, but I'm sure there are now these days because of how corrupted our diet system, our food supply is completely corrupted. Our whole taste buds, our senses, and once they're corrupted, the clean foods, the fruits and veggies, they're not going to taste good because we're so used to having all the high stimulant foods, lots and lots of flavors, concentrated flavors. And this is what, eating the high proteins and stuff. And fat is a very, very addictive sensation flavor, even though it doesn't have much flavor on its own. When you mix it with things, it gives it that flavor, that addictive flavor. But on its own, just having oils and stuff, they're really limited. But when you mix them with things, it gives you that highly addictive property. The more obstructive, the more addictive. That's what we see. The more obstructive, the more addictive things are. Generally, not, it's not 100% rule, but for the most part, that's what we've seen. So what do? We stay on, clean, minimal diets, and away we go. So from the second week of this month, on the 6th, is when, started to, for the most part, stop eating. On the weekends, we had some stuff, some sprouts and things, very little food, a lot of dry days, a lot of semi-dry days. I mix it in, and going for the squeeze, right? We're going for the big squeeze. Could go for a long dry, very long dry, or you can mix it in with some semi-dries and stuff like that. Just go with things that are prudent and are wise, and to help you build your belief system on dry fasting. And you'll be able to go more and more and more. I've taken dry fasting pretty far myself, and we know we can go further. I know I can go further, but you need to prepare for these times. You need to clean up. You need to stay away from obstructive foods, and best is stay away from obstructive foods for good. And if you want to eat mainly fruit as a staple, and some leafy greens, salads. That's your next best scenario. And then third would be the veggie kingdom, right? The veggie fruits, which are botanical fruits, are in the fruit category. Your okras, your tomatoes, your peppers, even your eggplants are fruit, your zucchinis, your squashes. What else is the fruit? I'm just trying to think. Did I say okra? Okra is a fruit. Seeds, carries the seed within itself. Or on the surface, like a strawberry. It's interesting. So, yeah. And then as we move away from those three least obstructive, fruit being the least, cooked fruit is right there with it, and veggie fruit is right there with them. Then we have your leafy greens, and I'll put the herbs and leafy greens together. The wild greens would be slightly less obstructive because of their wild strain field strength. They have much more field strength than cultivated greens. Even if you grow it yourself, you can put all the love and energy in ocean water, but there's something about the wild plants energetically that's superior. If you go pick some wild plants and root them and plant them in your area, and then you feed them ocean water, look out, you have some pretty powerful stuff. And we've done that. That's why I can speak from that experience. So you have those categories, those three, which should be the staple, meaning, the fruit mostly should be that 80-90% at least. And then if you're having the other stuff, the other 10 to 20%. If you want to go into the vegetable kingdom, the heavier ones, you can. It's up to you, the level of obstructiveness you want to go. Like I said, we indulge in those things occasionally, but we're going less and less. So the heavier vegetable kingdom would be what? Would be your beets. That's herb, but it's still something a little heavier than the rest that we've talked about. Then you got the heavier things, your starchy ones, your sweet potatoes. You have, you have many others. You have celery. You have your broccoli. You have your cauliflower. These are, heavier obstructive, probably less so than the starchy ones, the root vegetables. Maybe put those in the category with a beet, and then the root vegetables would be a little more obstructive for sure, because the starches. If you bake them, you convert the starches more to sugar, which will help, the process much more so, but still going to have residue for sure. How do you know that? Well, when you fast for so much and then you introduce these foods, your senses are so awake that they will tell you which foods are more obstructive. It's very, very clear and very revealing when you eat these foods and how the body reacts. The next day, what you feel in the nose and in the throat and in your joints, you will feel it. You will feel it when you fasted for so long and keep the senses awake and alive. So, and then, there's heavier choices after those, of course, right? You got your grains, your legumes. Which ones are more obstructive, the grains or the legumes? The starchy or the high protein? Well, I don't know. They're very close. Very close. Rice and beans is a staple in many countries, poor countries and not poor countries. It's a staple for a lot of people, and it's a poor mixture for digestion, right? Starches and protein, very poor for digestion. It's one of the no-nos, but it tastes so good. In Italian, pasta fagioli. They have rice and beans too, but pasta and beans is a big favorite. Pasta fagioli in Italian cultures, and I believe in some other cultures as well. They have these dishes. All these things, the taste and the aromas, and it's all wonderful. But how do they make us feel in the long run, and what do they do for our health? That's the questions that you have to ask. If you look at athletes, that many of them were on the journey of being healthy, so they went from meat eating to vegetarianism, and they felt better. Then they went from vegetarianism to raw foodism, and they felt better. Meaning the way the muscles worked and how they recovered and pains and so on and so forth. Then they went to fruitarianism and they felt way better. No more pains, no more, very, very quick recovery, if any, and less injuries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, you're going to see the very few people who choose a fasting lifestyle as a lifestyle and occasionally choose to eat fruit and, are athletes. And that is the next era where we are in untested realms and categories that we haven't seen to a large degree. We've had a taste of people. We've had professional athlete in our group, master fasting, with outstanding results. And she was the only one who actually gained weight in 108 days. Go figure. She gained weight on full MFS 108 days. She shared her story, and she keeps in touch, and she loves master fasting. She loves everything we've shared, and we occasionally hear from her, and it's wonderful because this information is amazing. Her coach said to her, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because her performance was much better as an athlete, master fasting. That's with no more eating, right? Just master fasting. But, we all are here, humans. We're here to touch, feel, and taste and experience all these wonderful things in this plane. And if somebody's okay with being done with eating, that's fine. But most of us will still like to enjoy food occasionally, and sometimes a little more than others. And that's okay too, right? But, we need to be prudent and wise and stay within the realm of clean, minimal eating, because going outside of that is not comfortable. And we may choose to go outside. I'm not saying that we don't have, we can't. Some of us will choose to go outside of that and want to go through those pains again. And that's your choice. But you have to be prudent. You have to be wise, because it could be dangerous, especially when you come off long. MFS is 7 days. We call the level 7 now, right? Going to level 7, choosing that as a lifestyle, dipping back into level 5, 6, occasionally maybe down to 4. I wouldn't go much more than 4 if you stayed for 7 for a while, because it's going to be tough for the body to switch back and forth from eating all those days and then, trying to be on, trying the body to work on plasma, on breatharian type of lifestyle, right? Trying to make a switch back and forth. It can't happen that quickly. If you eat maybe 1 or 2 days a week, maybe 3, if it's really clean and minimal, you'd be able to do that switch. Maybe some people, if they're really strong field strength, really fit, really clean, minimal eating, and they can go 4 days and be able to keep the body in that PLAF, high field strength state. But when you go back to eating, we know what happens. The body has to process all those foods, so it needs to convert the food into PLAF so it can absorb the fields off it. And when there's no food, it's strictly living off PLAF, off the field exchanges. The PLAF is the love of our divine creator flowing through each and every one of us. Plasma love always flowing. That's where it comes from. We didn't make it up, but we just gave it a nice name that gives it more clarity to myself anyway, because it's the love of the divine. It's the plasma love of the divine always flowing, and we're tapping into that, and we're helping that love. We can share the flow of that love from the creator with others, and help it flow through others. That's what we're trying to do. Not trying, that's what we're doing, and have been doing as best we can. And sometimes you may not agree with everything I say, and that's okay. And some people may not like me, and that's okay too. We still have that plasma love, and we'll continue to allow it to flow through all of you. Oscar, hi. I haven't seen you in a bit. Flying through, but just stopped by to say hi, Luigi. It's so nice to see you live and feel those positive sound vibrations from you. Thank you so much, Oscar. Nice to see you again. You look good in shape, ready for the future. Keep on. Yeah, we keep going, Oscar, and as best we can. And we're in for the big squeeze of the month, of the season change this month. And just enjoying. We're, going through, many challenging times, as we all are, and we all have been, especially the last 2 years. But we just kicked it up a notch. Um, um, we've taken in my mother into our home, and we're taking care of her now. It's a 24/7 commitment, and it's an honor, but it can take its toll on anybody, because it's a lot of work, and we do the best we can. I'm still here, and away we go. So yeah, I've done a lot of talking. Did I miss anything here? I think I got all the questions. I'm glad I can see everybody tonight. This girl, I know I have already been through that. Awesome, yeah. Being an honor, taking care of our parents. It's a lot of work. If anybody's worked with disabled people, I've always said it's wow. Thumbs up and laugh to you for doing that as a career job, because it's not only a physical toll, emotionally, my goodness gracious. Especially when it's a loved one, it's tons of emotions. Really takes its toll. Like, as you can see, myself in the last, so what is it now? Going into 6 years I've been taking care of her. Takes its toll, but it's an honor, and there's a purpose of why we're doing this. There's a purpose for it. Yeah, it's hard but honorable. Absolutely. I spent the last days with our loved ones, our parents, who put all their heart and soul. For most of us, hopefully, there's a few children, sadly, that didn't have that wonderful opportunity to have parents, loving and caring parents, and that's really heartbreaking and sad. But for most of us who had those homes, we know what it's like. Or whoever is a parent knows what it's like, how much work you have to do to bring up a baby, an infant, toddler, moving up through the teenage years, and putting up through all that, and how much work there's involved. It's ongoing. It's ongoing work, and only parents will truly understand what that is. Just like only fasters know what fasting is all about. You can describe it all you want. No, you can, but you'll never know until you are a faster what fasting is, or you never know what it's like to be a parent until you're a parent. It's funny that you see some of these social workers and stuff that they're giving advice on parenting and everything because they went to school and they've got a degree. I would not want to associate with any kind of people like that if they weren't parents themselves. I'm sorry, I may be prejudiced in that, but you need to have the experience. And just like myself, trying to get suggestions from people who've not fasted about fasting in particular, forget it, not at all, or have fasted only for few short years. Not interested in. I'm interested in listening to what they went through, and that's it. I will not put a lot of weight into what they're theorizing from what they went through in those few short years, because I like I said myself, 30, what are we at, 30, almost 32 years, I still know nothing. We just scratched the surface in understanding of fasting, and we share, and it's a lot, and we share that so that others can benefit without going through the harsh times that we went through. Some of us, which are the pioneers. I consider myself one of the pioneers in the background. I'm just doing it on my own, and I was able to share and guide tens of thousands of people with this knowledge. And I see the knowledge that Master Fasting has shared all out there. It's not my knowledge. It's the knowledge coming from the Divine Creator, which gave me the opportunity to tap into this knowledge. Sharon, how do you know, are you still on your season change dry fast? Yeah, like I mentioned, I really started on the 8th, doing a lot of dry on and off. And now I'm going more deeper. A little bit of semi-dry, then dries, and I'm doing it like that. If I decide to go more dry, yeah. But the semi-dries I do is small amount of tinctures, a very small amount, and or maybe sometimes a little shot of some juice or tea. So when you're taking, if anybody's done the semi-dry with just tinctures, it's very, very dry because it's just a small amount of alcohol. It's just it gives you that boost of our highly elevated friends helping do the work with you, so you don't feel alone, especially in high stress, high emotional situations. These tools come in very, very handy. The best way to fast, dry fast in general, is what? Being alone, on your own, in nature would be the best. But being alone on your own is the best way to fast. If you're in a serious imbalanced condition, then it would be nice to have somebody there to help in those situations. And sometimes if you're bedridden, it's an essential that you're going to need help. But then you have that belief system in the way to maybe to do what you want to accomplish, because they see what? They see you losing weight, and they go into a fear state, blah, 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 because of what? Ignorance. That's all it is. They don't know about fasting, and they're trying to put in their 2 cents worth from what they're seeing, because of judging from us losing weight. Furthest thing from the truth, right? We know what we need to go through. If we're long-term fasters know what fasting is. Long-term meaning, if you got about a decade into you know what fasting, you have a good understanding of what fasting is. If you've done it a lot regularly, you have a good understanding. I've seen people that were long-term fasters and did not have a good understanding. So it always does not come through for everybody. We've been able to put the information out to in a way that more people understood what fasting is and the power of fasting and how to fast prudently and safely with the protocol of master fasting. So it's the glorified dry fast. Remember that. Glorified dry fast. And we work with the art of subtraction. We don't work with addition. We work with subtraction. And everything we use is an assistant to the art of subtraction. That's all it is. That's how we look at things. Because we know that only the body can feed, hydrate, purge, build, balance, and heal itself through the soul from source. Comes from the divine source, that healing. We can't be arrogant and say we're doing it, because when we're doing nothing but breathing, how can we be doing it? Are we in total control? When we get a cut, are we doing that cut? It's healing on its own through that connection of the plaf. It just heals. You don't have to think about it. And everything else that starts to regenerate, there's no thought process. We can be arrogant in that. We can assist. And the assistance is only because of the brainwashing we've had, which corrupted our belief system into something that it's not supposed to be. It has nothing to do with truth. It has nothing based on nature's laws or the universal laws, which are divine laws. So that's why we can meditate and pray and put more emphasis to reinforce the belief system of where that healing is actually coming from. So we can visualize, for example, if we have a spinal cord injury, we can visualize our perfect spine within us. We can continuously visualize that. And by visualizing that, we are building our faith, because that's the way we were created. We have a perfect blueprint, so we can tap into the perfect blueprint, right? That perfect blueprint is there for each and every one of us, even if we're not born what we so call in that perfect physical structure that we know. If something's out of whack, I believe that there's a way to reconnect and allow the body through that source to reestablish and correct things back to the blueprint. And we've seen it. People that were born with crooked bones, et cetera, they straightened out, went back to that. So we're not talking any theory here, myths. We've seen it happen. People restoring their spinal cord injuries. We've seen it happen. So-called big C cancers and crap melt away. We've seen it happen. So the only thing that's in our way is our belief system, emotions, relationships, emotions, belief system. And when we give up, we see no more purpose, we give up. Once we give up, there's nothing anybody can do. Once we've lost their purpose in life, we don't see any value in us being around, put ourselves in those deeply depressed states. There's nothing anybody can do until that person, that man, woman, and forget about person, man, woman, is able to come to terms and see a spark of light, to have a purpose. And once they see that spark of light, bang, then they can make the changes and restore what was damaged through that line, right? Through the source, through the soul from source. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. me blabbering away again. If anybody's got any last questions before I sign off, I gotta go tend to my mother. All right. So we'll see you back on the page. We'll see you back on Wednesday. Q&A, Facebook Live. And that's at 3:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And away we go. Only within the group. And of course, the Zoom. Ciao for now. Enjoy your evening, rest of your evening, your afternoon, your morning, wherever you are. God bless. Keep that plasma love always flowing.